thanks, Monica, for the introduction, and thanks to Danny for inviting Unruly today. Wow. Collaboration. Sharing. You are going to love what we have in store. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do in the next 25 minutes. First, we're actually going to share a little bit about sharing. Second, I'm going to talk to you a bit about the video market space in particular and how sharing ties into video. And then last but not least, I'm going to give you some things that you can take back to your offices to help improve those experiences for customers and for your clients. But before I start, I saw how many people are in the search business. How many people are working with video or touching video in some way, shape, or form? Wow, that's great. A lot more than I thought. Super. Well, let's start the show. You heard this before. People love to share. Let me give you some specific elements of how much sharing they like in the context of video. There's 100 hours of YouTube footage that goes up every minute. Facebook has 4 billion pieces of content that are being passed around every day. And the new acquisition of WhatsApp, 100 million video links are getting passed around between people all over the world. And our friends at Twitter, they're even in the game with 700 YouTube videos being tweeted every minute. People love to share. And guess what? How many of you are marketers in the room? Right? A lot of you, and a lot of agency folks too, I hope. Bottom line is that, guess what? Your boss, they're interested in sharing. Because in the collaborative economy, or as we say at Unruly, the sharing economy, people are thinking about not just watching video, but creating great shareable experiences. And Jim Farley at Ford had a great quote saying, basically what he had said was, it's not just about viewing, and then he went on to say, you've got to create great shareable content. Biggest companies in the world, biggest marketers are thinking about sharing. So you're going to get a little insight. Let me give a little context around a category that you may not be familiar with. How many people have heard of the term social video? Okay, like hardly anybody. Okay, great. Here's what social video is. It's actually an IAB category. And it's essentially user-initiated video that is purchased on a cost per view basis. For all of you guys in the room that know a lot more about CPC than I do, this is like gold for you. And as you look for ways to expand your businesses, there's real opportunity in video. It's multi-platform. There's a whole host of engagement metrics as long as my arm, and you can pick and choose for the ones that are right for your client. And it's performance-based pricing, which everybody in here is well familiar with. Last but not least, it's optimized for sharing, which we heard a whole bunch about from Justin's talk earlier, which was fantastic. This is what a typical deliverable might look like. It's a video. This is a Coke video. It's kind of one of my fun favorite ones. But if you notice I put a blue box around it, that's the sharing functionality. It's got to be present, and it's got to be easily accessible so that friction is lessened and people can pass stuff around. That's the key. It can run in-page. It can run in-post. It can run on mobile devices. There's no lack of ways that this message now can be delivered because the technology and the platforms exist to make sharing easy. And so if you haven't paid attention to the category, you should. Why else should you pay attention to the category? Well, it's increased 50x since the last 7 years when social video really started. For me, it was about seeing the Dove Evolution ad. Anyone remember that ad? Dove Evolution? Great, right in front. Woman walks in off the street, next thing you know, she's a runway supermodel. Wow. That really got my attention back in 2006. Back then, that ad had about 60,000 shares, meaning someone passed it from one person to another, right? And you post it on Facebook, it still counts as one share, even though you might have 1,000 friends. But today, what we're seeing is the top videos are garnering 3 million, 4 million, 5 million shares. People are passing around. And there was a great stat that I heard earlier that 92% of people trust when a friend gives them a reference, word of mouth. And we're going to talk a little about word of mouth. But the category is growing in social video, and it's one that a lot of marketers are paying attention to. Here's another reason why people are paying attention to it. Video shared increases purchase intent by 50-fold. That's from our friends at McKinsey. Pretty good at analysis last time I looked. We've done our own analysis at Unruly, and what we have found is that 1/3 of people will actually talk to someone about something that they see. 1 in 4 will actually go visit a homepage. 9% actually indicate that they will purchase a product. This is word of mouth, right? It's no longer at the water cooler, but as we heard earlier, it's being diffused. And so how do you kind of capture that and take advantage of that? Let me tell you a little bit about how Unruly can talk about this topic. We've been doing it for as long as anybody in the space, and we have built our business around social video marketing. We started in 2006 with a simple product called the Viral Video Chart. Anybody see the Viral Video Chart? Anybody familiar with it? So the Viral Video Chart essentially was set up as a ranking for videos. How do you figure out what's good video versus kind of what's not that interesting, right? Because most of the video that's out there, frankly, I'm going to show you in a little bit, it's not that interesting. So how are you able to kind of distill what's really great video content? And that's how the Viral Video Chart was started. Since then, what Unruly has done is observe the sharing behavior of over 424 billion videos. We've looked at how and why people share. And I'm going to explain to you some reasons why people share, and we're actually going to throw a little video in. But we focus on predicting how likely an ad is to share. We focus on helping companies distribute it, and we have a large network in order to do that. And then the last thing we do is we help people analyze stuff on the back end. So for all the analysis analysts in the room, there's something for you around identifying and looking at share shift, how people are sharing, and predicting how ads will share. So we're going to get into that. What we're identifying essentially are three things. Number one is we're taking essentially shareable content. Two, we're looking at where it's relevant to an audience and then integrating your brand. We're an area we like to define as the social sweet spot, that nice midpoint between these three intersections. So this is the most shared ad of all time. Anyone remember this ad? Darth Vader, Volkswagen? Great ad. We're not going to play it. But this ad is the most shared ad of all time with over 5.2 million shares. And it launched during the Super Bowl a few years ago. 67 million viewers, but 5.2 million shares. Anybody remember this ad? Dove Real Beauty Sketches. Ironically, the policeman who is the sketch artist in that is from San Jose. Dove Real Beauty Sketches had 132 million views. Huge amount of views. But look at the number of shares. 4.4 million shares. Less than Volkswagen, even though they had a huge number of views. There's a term called share rate. It's a way to look at and normalize for media activity. Number of shares divided by number of views. And so, by all measures, Volkswagen has 5 million shares across 67 million views, most shared ad of all time. But these numbers are getting very large, and every year that goes by, that curve continues to grow exponentially. So, you're going to create the next viral hit? Boy, I get asked that one all the time. I want to go viral. Like, let's just whip that up. It's not so easy. Here's how the numbers lay out. The likelihood that you will create an ad that is over 1 million views is less than 0.6%. It is very, very unlikely that you will create a, quote, viral hit. In fact, 80% of videos that are created have less than 10,000 views. And this is on YouTube, right? And YouTube is video, right? Sort of. It's a third of video. 2/3 of video is the rest of the internet. So guess what? The numbers get even worse. It's very hard to go viral. That's why we talk about sharing. And if you can identify the right audience and get your message in front of the right audience, you've got a winner on your hand. Okay, let's shift gears and talk about why people share. There's lots of reasons why people might share. It might be something primal. It might be for utility. It might be they thought the ad was funny. They appreciated the medium it was in. It was on their phone. They had some time and they passed it along. There's lots of reasons why people share. But the two that matter are the psychological response, how you feel, and the social motivation, why you would share. Those are the two that matter when you boil it down. So we're actually going to kind of go in depth on the two of these. But essentially, if you understand those two things, you can plot how likely an ad is to share. What you're looking at is an algorithm that we have created, proprietary, called ShareRank. And what we were able to do is predict with an 80% confidence how likely an ad is to share before it even runs. And so if you look on the y-axis, you will see the share rate. We had the little math explanation earlier. That's something that is known, or you can kind of guesstimate what it would be based on what you're trying to invest in. The share rank is actually testing. Doing a test to a panel of users in order to come up with an actual number that quantifies sharing. Okay, Which ad do you think would perform better? Heineken with Daniel Craig or Coca-Cola with just random guy? Daniel Craig, right? Not really. Despite, I'm sure Daniel was well paid and he's an incredible actor. Anyone that jumps out of a helicopter, prior to an Olympic Games with the Queen is my hero. But the reality is that the Unlock the 007 in You, which is from Coca-Cola, actually performed better. Its share rate was 9 times greater than Heineken. But, if you're a creative guy, you might look at it and go, oh, I think the Heineken ad is going to do much better, right? We paid all this money. This guy has instant brand recognition, right? So let's put a little money ball into kind of defining shareability, if you will. We're going to do something right now. We're going to actually play the 007 video. I want you to think about 2 things while you're checking your email. The first thing is I want you to think about how you feel. The second thing is I want you to think about why would you share this? And we're actually going to go and take a look at how that worked with the panel. So Michelle, can we roll the video? I've seen that spot dozens of times. It never gets old. And the reaction you had is a reaction that I get all the time when I show this spot. Why? It's a great ad. Famed San Francisco ad man Jeff Goodby, just up the road from here, said that great advertising makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And while this one may not have made the hair on the back of your neck stand up, you all had an emotional response because I watched all of you in the room. And so this ad shared incredibly high. 9.3 is an incredibly high share rate versus an ad that you might think did better because there was a really famous actor in it. So let's take a look at putting some science into sharing. What you're looking at is an output of the Coca-Cola ad and respondents who were basically being asked questions, number 1, about how they feel, number 2, about why they would share. So psychological motivation, how they felt. Everyone laughed in here. Hilarity, maybe? Big brown bubble up on the screen. The higher the bubble, the better. The larger the bubble, the more people that felt that way. And this is compared to a norm for beverages and then the US market norm. And so it might be a little hard to see from where you are, but hilarity is the big brown bubble underneath, above that Coca-Cola spot there. It's a funny spot. Another one was exhilaration. Exhilaration, you want this person to succeed, right? It's a race against the clock. Who doesn't love that? And so Coke was able to kind of blend those 2 things together and make people actually feel it while they're watching it on a screen. Psychological motivation, how you feel. Just for point of interest, Americans love funny. If you take a look at the market norm, the biggest bubble there is actually hilarity. If I was in Brazil, I would tell you that the Brazilians like exhilaration. So lots of different markets have different normative trends, but generally Americans like funny. Funny's really hard to do, by the way. It's very cultural. What is funny for a guy from Greenwich, Connecticut, like me, might be much not as funny to someone from Los Gatos. So very hard to do with funny. How about the most easy for me to say. How about the social motivations? Why would people share this? Well, there's a variety of things that we look at. In fact, we look at 10 different factors of why people share. And this is after looking at those 400 billion videos. We boiled it down working with people like Wharton and the University of South Australia, which is a leader in this category of social media marketing. But essentially it comes down to 10 characteristics, including things like utility. I see something, I think you might be interested in it, I pass it on to you to help you. My brother's in the market for a car. I saw a cool car ad. I shot it over to him because it was a sedan and he was thinking about a sedan. Kudos. Hey, look at me, I'm smart. This is the LinkedIn post that you see all the time, right? And probably most of the tweets that are going out, hopefully right now, but we'll see what happens on that front. But for this particular spot, the one that really resonated, that big bubble there above the 007 icon, was zeitgeist. Does anyone know what was going on during the time of this video being launched? Take a big guess. What was happening during the time of this video being launched? I'll give you a hint. 007. Skyfall. It was in the opening of the video. It was a release of the movie. So it was very relevant and timely. Someone sees it, it's timely, they know the movie's coming out because there's a lot of other stimuli going out in the kind of, the media and PR world, the paid media world, and it's getting distributed out. So zeitgeist for this spot was quite high. Another reason why people passed this on was for social good. I'm not sure how James Bond is as far as social good, but that's what the panel said. So you can actually predict how likely something is to share. Okay, great, Richard. I know this thing's going to share. How do I actually get it out there? And there's a couple things to think about. Ads that are seen by few cannot be shared by many. This is the biggest pitfall that marketers fall in today. They spend all this money creating great content, great shareable content, and then they throw a couple of bucks in distribution. And this is the most often tweet that I get when I give these types of talks around the country, is that ads that are seen by few cannot be shared by many. And we have absolutely seen this based on data at Unruly. So you could be the best violin player on the planet. If you don't leave your apartment, no one's going to know about it. So you have to think about the distribution of the asset in addition to just the creation of the asset. Something else to think about is something we call the social diffusion curve. What are we looking at? Well, this is looking at, on the y-axis, the number of shares by day, and then over the campaign life cycle or the duration. Here's what we know. What we know is that the viral peak happens on day 2. Video gets released, next day, viral peak. Why? It's getting into the system. People are seeing it and being exposed to it and starting to share it. You want to be as high as possible, because what happens after that, 25% of your views will be in the first 2 days, 50% of your views will be within the first 3 weeks. So you want to get as high as possible on that viral peak, because what's called viral decay is going to start to kick in. And we've seen this happen. This is a common trend that we see when we look at the life cycle of shared video assets or social video. So you really have to make your media work harder. One area where we've seen this trend and marketers do some interesting things is around Super Bowl. 60% of the most shared Super Bowl ads are pre-released. Do you remember the media frenzy that happened last month or 2 months ago? You were seeing in mainstream media, everyone's talking about Super Bowl ads, and it was on Good Morning America and CNBC, and everyone's, if you follow Ad Age, it's constantly there. All the blogs, everyone's talking about Super Bowl ads. Why? Because it used to be something you kind of kept hidden, and then you debuted it on a stage of 10 million people. Now, because of technology, you want to get it out there. You're going to spend $4 million in media, and then you're going to spend your production cost. You got to get it out there. Budweiser's done a great job of doing this. They've actually been able to hit kind of 2 peaks, if you will. And so what they've been able to do is basically slow down the viral decay that is inevitable. I like to call it social gravity. So it's really important to get out as quickly as you can and as high as you can, and that's where having the right distribution strategy is key. The other thing to think about is it's not just one device anymore. And there's plenty of discussion at the conference about kind of different devices that people are using. But you kind of want to think what device people are using during different times of the day, right? When I'm on the train in the morning, I'm on my mobile device. I get into the office, it's laptop as I jump between meetings, and then if I get a chance to sit at my desk for 15 minutes, I'm plugging my laptop into my screen. So I'm sitting in that environment. When I get home at night, I've got the iPad. While I'm watching, I'll simultaneously kind of looking at things. This is consumer behavior, and this is from ComScore. And so you really want to think about, for those of you in the room that raise your hands on video, you want to think about the receiving audience and when they're kind of looking at this video. So let me just highlight a couple of things here. There's a sea of video content online. It is a tsunami. Post and pray on YouTube is not going to work anymore. Justin mentioned a comment that the large players, they don't necessarily have this all figured out, and I couldn't agree with you more, especially when you see that 2/3 of most video is not being viewed on YouTube. So you want to think about complementary strategy. Shares are a deeper measurement and form of engagement, and it's something that all of you can look into. And you can predict the shareability. It's not like it's going to be guesswork here. You can actually predict how likely something is to share. And last but not least, seeding distribution across multiple platforms will enhance sharing success. Hit the viral peak and slow down your decay. If you want to know more about the topic of sharing, and particularly around video, come over to our website. Here's the URL, or I'll be around afterwards if people want to chat. And we do a lot of academic research around this topic to help some of the most biggest brands on the planet understand sharing. Thanks for your time, and enjoy the rest of the conference.